channel, it's Chelsea, where we talk about all things glam and all things girly. I am a beauty enthusiast that loves to talk about everything dealing with beauty and makeup, and today we're talking about an eyeshadow palette that I had no clue existed if it wasn't for my friend Gabe Loves Makeup. This is the Lorac Fairytale Forest palette. So we will be doing this eye look that we see here, doing swatches, and just give you my overall thoughts and recommendations of this palette. I'll do one little comparison at the end and we'll be done. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I truly do appreciate it, and let's get right into this video. So like I said, didn't even know Lorac was coming out with a new palette, and then when Gabe was like, hey, have you seen this? I was like, this looks like a palette I would love. So here is the Fairytale Forest palette. Very beautiful, neutral, everyday, but kind of jazzed up type of eyeshadow palette. It does retail for $35, and I did pick this one up from the Lorac website, but it's also sold at Ulta. I did check with those two websites and it is there. We get 18 shades in this eyeshadow palette, and we have a combination of mattes, shimmers, and metallic shades. So let's get into some swatches of this eyeshadow palette. We have Birch, Oak, Earth, and Rosewood. These are all matte shades. Then we have Mushroom, Fog, North Star, and is it Komorebi? Is that how you say that? I hope I pronounced that right. And we have Enchanted, Butterfly, Wind, and Redwood. And Folklore, Pine, Grove, let's see if I can do this, Wildflower. And then the last two shades I'll swatch down here, we have Evergreen and then Woodland. So here are all the shades of this eyeshadow palette. So sorry that the shadows are kind of all over the place, but you get the gist. So let's get into this eye look. Starting out with the Lancome Prime-It Boosted Eye Base. Start out with this shade right here. This is called Birch. There is definitely some kick up in the pan, so doesn't bother me, but just pointing that out. And this shade is definitely basically my skin tone. So it is blending nicely. And I'm gonna put this shade also on the outer edge of the eye. With this primer, it does a really good job of adhering shadows to the eye. But if you're gonna be doing a lot of blending with matte shades, sometimes it causes the matte shades to stick a little too much, so the matte shades don't blend as effortlessly. Okay, and I was using the BK Beauty X Angie Hot and Flashy A503 brush. Now let's go into the crease. So going in with the shade here called Oak, and this is a Songyuji Crease Pro brush, and going to place this directly into the crease. And whenever I apply shadows to the eye, I like to start like toward the middle of the eye, because if I put a little too much shadow there, I can definitely blend it out this way, and I have more surface area to blend the shadow out, versus if I start like right here, or if I start too close to the inner corner of the eye. So I always start there, and then I can blend toward the inner corner if I want to, or I can blend it toward the outer corner of the eye. And then if worst case scenario happens and it doesn't really blend too much, the majority of the eyeshadow is in the middle of the eye, and so it doesn't look as bad as if the majority of that eyeshadow was like too close to the inner corner of the eye or the outer corner of the eye. Now going in with the Refer 26 brush with this shade here called Redwood. And now I'm going to start deepening the crease in terms of the shades that are being put into the crease. And I'm concentrating this shade toward the outer edge of the eye. I'll bring it about halfway into the crease. And then I will start to add that shade on the lower portion of the lid. And then start flaring it out or kind of flicking it out. So creating a little bit of a wing with this shadow. Now going in with this shade called Woodland, and same Rephr 26 brush, and we're going to further deepen up this outer edge of the eye. So I really want to bring a little bit more intensity to this outer edge, so I'm going to keep this shade only in this outer portion of the eye. Kind of bring it in a little bit onto the lid, and then dragging it out. And then of course, blending out the edges of this eye look. Now going in with the Sonia G worker brush, and I want to go in with, oh, there's so many pretty shimmers. Let's try these lash shades. Let's go with Evergreen first, because I think we can put Evergreen down first and then go with Wind and then go in with another shade. And whenever I apply shimmers to my eyes, especially if I don't know, if there's a lot of fallout, I always press the shadow onto my eye. I don't drag it first. I just press it to get a feel for the shadow before I start to like swipe it, because sometimes you can tell right off the back when it's a shadow that is going to work better pressed, especially if it has more of a metallic, crumbly texture. I also like doing that because I feel like you can get most pigmentation by just pressing the shadow onto the lid. So this is applying nicely. It is building nicely. So this is a shade that is buildable. It doesn't come right out the gate with so much intensity, but you can definitely build to your liking. And if I were to spray my brush or go in with Pat's Intensifies wand, I'm sure I could get more pigmentation from it. I don't want to do that just yet because I just want to see what the shadow or what this palette looks like if we were not to add any additives to the palette. So now I want to go in with this shade called Wind, putting that shade around the, this is exactly what I wanted to happen. Don't you love that when you're like, I think we could make magic with these shades, and then you're like, magic has been made. Ah, yes. Oh, this is so beautiful. This is turning out exactly how I wanted it to turn out. Oh. Now this shade, Wind, is a little more metallic in its texture. The shade Evergreen, the green shade, definitely was more of a finer shimmer. But I am not getting really any fallout. I just have like a little bit on my face, but not anything terrible. Okay, and then, I want to go in, what is the shade? Butterfly. Oh, so pretty. This shade right here. Where is the shade? Here we go. This shade right here. So it looks pink right here, but then if you turn it, I'm hoping you can see the shift. There is a shift of gold and pink, so it's a really pretty duochrome. So I want to add that. I'm gonna go in with my Sonia G Builder brush, and let's apply that right here in the, oh, look at that. This reminds me of Pat's McGrath Extraterrestrial. All three of these shades together. Huh. Okay, this is so pretty. And I'm just gonna bring this up and start to blend it into the shade Wind. Then I kind of want to go in with Enchanted. So let me tell you, I did not want this much pink. I wanted more gold than pink. So I'm gonna go in with Enchanted, which is right here, and see if I can get more gold. All right, I'm gonna go in with the travel brush of the BK Beauty 203 brush, going in with Enchanted, and I'll place it over top of that. Yes, that is giving me more gold than pink. I mean, we still see the pink. Butterfly's like, you will not cover me up. You will not dim my light. I'm not trying to dim your light. Actually, I am. Okay, that looks more of what I wanted. So we've got a little pink hue. I'm not mad at the pink hue, but this is definitely more of what I wanted. This deepest shade here, and taking the Refer 15 brush and just gonna start running that across the lower lash line. And if you're wondering what else is on my face, I did go in with the Dior Dream Skin Perfector as my base. And then I'm wearing the Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation in the shade 4N. And the Dior Skin Corrector. I swear I didn't plan for this to be a whole Dior complexion base type thing. But the Dior Skin Corrector in the shade 3W. And then for my under eye powder, Kosas Cloud Set in the shade Pillowy. And please excuse my brows. They will be getting done in a couple of days. I know they look wonky. We just gotta go with it for today. Okay, my eyeliner for my tight line and waterline, I went in with the Natasha Denona eyeliner, and this is in the shade Brown. I'll go in with the Sonia G Mini Booster and then the shade Redwood right here. And I'll use this just to blend out that brown shade slightly. So just running it across the base of that shadow to blend out the edges. I did have much more fallout on my face from the metallic shades. So these shades right here that I used, I had much more fallout from them, especially the shade right here called Enchanted. I had a lot of fallout from that. So I did have to clean off my face prior to putting my primer. Which doesn't bother me too much. I just know if I use this palette and use those shades, that I need to do my eyes first. Let us go in with, let's go in with Folklore. And I want to apply that right here in the inner portion of the lower lash line. And adding it right here. Another beautiful shade. And I might actually bring this up to cover some more of that pink. Okay, so these are the eyes. I'm gonna put some lashes on, going in with the Ardell Texture Eyes Lashes in the style 577. And then I'll be back to wrap up and share with you my final thoughts. All right, guys, so this is the finished look, and I really, really enjoy how everything turned out. So this palette is so beautiful. It is very beautiful, and looking at it in the pan, I feel like it looks a little, just like, you know, a simple everyday palette. You know, you may not look at it and see necessarily a lot of like pizzazz and like, you know, fireworks, but the metallics that I used today definitely did not come to play. Like, they were very pigmented, but also very easy to blend, very easy to work with. Like I mentioned earlier, there is some fallout, so I would just recommend doing your eyes first so that you can just wipe it away and not have it affect the rest of your base. But I really enjoyed it. The mattes blended very nicely too. And I think as a whole, this palette has a pretty good amount of transition shades depending on your complexions, depth shades depending on your complexion. Now, I do wish that there was like one or two shadows that were deeper than this, or even if they had thrown in a black, because then it would have made this whole palette a one and done palette for pretty much any complexion. This deep brown shade is definitely a deeper shade, but depending on your complexion, depending on how rich it is, and also depending on the undertone of your skin, this is not going to be a smoke shade for everybody. So, right, once again, a whole bunch of depending ons. But if you have a deeper, richer complexion, you might have to reach outside of this shadow for a deeper depth shade. But for the most part, in terms of like these shimmers and metallic shades, any complexion can use them and really get some really good use out of them. And then if you do have a lighter complexion, you know, to about a deep complexion, then you can use the majority of these shades to your liking. Like I said, if you have a richer complexion, you might have to go outside of this palette for that deep smoke shade. But all in all, I think this palette is really beautiful. I'm so glad I picked it up because it wasn't on my radar. If Gabe hadn't told me about it, I wouldn't even have known that this palette existed. And it kind of brings back nostalgic feelings for me because Lorac was the first eyeshadow palette that I really, it might have been the first like kind of higher end eyeshadow brand that I purchased from. And the quality is still great. So I'm really excited about this one. I really enjoy the tones in this one as well. You've got, you know, a couple of duochrome shades right here. And then, I don't know, I think this is just a really good, excellent everyday type of palette, but then you can kind of glam it up depending on what look you want to go for. Like this is a look that I would wear more so going out versus to work, but I can definitely see, you know, very neutral work appropriate looks. I can definitely see more like going out looks, more smoky looks, more kind of like out of the box looks, outside of like your regular everyday or work types of looks. When I started playing in this palette, I immediately thought of the Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette. So I love this palette. I used to use it all the time and I need to pick it back up because I haven't used it in a while. But wanted to just do a little comparison between the two. And looking at them both, I don't see that, you know, the Supreme Nudes and then the Fairytale palette are identical to each other. But I do feel like I can see why I feel like there's some similarity between these two palettes. Now, if you do have Supreme Nudes, I don't think you're going to replicate yourself if you wanted to pick up this Lorac palette because, once again, I don't feel like they look identical to each other. And I feel like the Supreme Nudes palette is very much warm-toned, like completely warm-toned. We do have that deeper shade in this palette that this palette does not have. Whereas the Lorac palette, you can get some more neutral to warm looks. So especially when looking at some of these matte shades do look more neutral to cool. So you can get, you know, maybe neutral to cool to warm looks out of this palette, depending on like what you're going for and also your complexion. Whereas the Supreme Nudes, you were only getting warm tone looks outside of this palette. But I recommend both of these palettes. So I'm very excited about this eye look. Can't wait to use this palette even more and get into more some of these shades and play more with the matte shades. But I think this one is a winner. And for $35, we're getting a pretty good deal in terms of the quality of the eyeshadow palette. So all in all, very happy with this palette. Definitely recommend it. So let me know your thoughts on this eyeshadow palette and this look. Is this something that you think you might be interested in? And what are your views on Lorac eyeshadows in general? So this is the second palette that I've purchased from them. I'm 2 for 2. So what are your thoughts on the brand? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you've made it to this point in the video and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love for you to consider subscribing and joining the Glam Girl Squad. And guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in my very next video. Bye, guys.